a lot of factors go into creating a quality beef product, including flavor. We've got a look at some of the work being done in this important area.
Whether in the grocery store or in a restaurant, consumers choose beef because they expect a positive eating experience. They want their steak to be tender, juicy, and full of flavor.
For years, we've always said tenderness is the driving force in what customers think about beef. And we know probably today it's not only tenderness, but flavor is also a big driver in that.
We are at the mercy of the consumer as to whether or not they're going to pick up our product every day, particularly with competition. And there's a lot of competition in the protein space. The biggest competition is cheaper. And so what we have to continue to do is do research to advance so that we're not cheaper but better. And particularly in the way of eating qualities, flavor, performance, tenderness, all of those things really matter to those consumers, because when they're paying perhaps 2 times more for this protein versus the competing protein, they need something that delivers each and every day.
We know beef has a unique eating experience that is superior to other proteins. That's self-evident based on the price point of beef in comparison to other proteins. Consumers are willing to pay for that based on the attributes that it offers up. And so any loss, any changes to that is certainly detrimental. So we're always trying to build on a good thing and maintain that. It's really clear in the data that consumers' willingness to pay will decline if they have a negative eating experience.
One key area for Beef Checkoff-funded research is aimed at better understanding the factors that influence beef flavor, with scientists at multiple universities collaborating in the Flavor Working Group.
And one of the advantages of Flavor Working Group is that we had people that came from a little bit different aspects. I think this has been one of the groups that I've worked with that has kind of laid all of our egos on the table and said, we just want to advance the demand for beef, improve beef flavor, and we've accepted each other's ideas. And as we've developed the research that's gone on, while sometimes each one of us takes our own part and does it, we come back together. And then we have a chance to not just be lone scientists, but to be a group that's going to improve flavor and give a return on their investment.
The main thing is that a lot of the other quality traits, tenderness, juiciness, we have a pretty good idea of what causes differences in those traits. Flavor, on the other hand, is extraordinarily complex. And there are so many things that influence flavor, from the composition of the meat to how it's cooked, to the differences in how people can discern what flavor is. And so the complexity requires us to have a better understanding. And a lot of the technology that we now have allows us to get an objective measure of flavor that we didn't have maybe 20 years ago.
Beef flavor is influenced by a variety of factors in the journey from the farm gate to the consumer's plate. The composition of the animal, the processing, the packaging, aging, and handling of the product, and the cooking method all play a role.
So beef flavor is the taste, including tenderness, juiciness, that influences flavor. It's the fat, it's the lean, it's a combination of both, and it's how the consumer senses it in their mouth, in their sinuses. It's a mouthfeel. It all combines to give a sense of what that product tastes like.
Yeah, like we have been looking at things that are associated with flavor in terms of volatile compounds, like things that are volatile, like when you cook, there are things that get released into the air, right? So if you actually taste food by your nose initially, before even you put that in your mouth. We have done instrumentation analysis to see if we can predict flavor from a beef cut. Like, it's very complex, and it varies based on your cooking method, what kind of cut, how you are prepping and how you're managing that product. All of that can have an impact on the flavor. So we have done some work with instrumentation to see if we can predict that flavor before actually it gets to the store.
We've worked a lot with beef flavor chemistry, the components of meat that influence the taste and the eating characteristics. We've taken those composition information and related that to shelf life stability and oxidative stability, So how the product appears and how well it sells in the case. Today we're working with MRI, CT technologies and 3D imaging technologies to determine the composition of the carcass from a fat, muscle, and bone standpoint. That not only helps us to determine the value of those carcasses and those animals, but helps us to send the right market signal back to producers so that producers know what to make, know how to build and genetically select their animals, produce their animals so that they're the most valuable for the consumer, but also the most valuable and profitable for their enterprise.
One of the tools researchers use is a trained sensory panel to evaluate the flavor of different beef samples.
Most all of the quality research that we do as it pertains to flavor and tenderness, our measurement tool is a trained panel. And so our students in this case have been trained over a series of weeks and months to look very specifically at attributes of beef. And they're able to quantify those as an instrument would.
So they're looking at flavor attributes, they're looking at tenderness, juiciness, and assessing those on a scale of intensity. So they're considered really an analytical tool in a sense. They're not there to tell us how much they like it, but they're there to tell us how much beef identity is present, how much oxidation they're detecting, these kind of more analytical attributes, so that we can then take that and relate that back to our whatever it is we're evaluating, process, product composition, and use that to make decisions, because that's really our end goal is to determine what needs to be done to affect liking of those key attributes: tenderness, juiciness, and flavor.
There's more research ongoing to understand flavor differences and the production choices and critical control points that will allow the industry to more consistently deliver the flavorful beef consumers want.
Consumers want flavor, and we did a lot of one-on-one interviews with consumers after we fed them. And the one thing that they always told us is, I like the taste of beef, I like the flavor. So we said, well, that's good. We can now measure flavor. We know what are good flavors and what are bad flavors. And now we need to really emphasize how to make sure that that's the eating experience that they have.
Again, beef demand very much driven by that eating experience, by the differentiating factor of flavor. Not only can the producers see that in the demand for their product, but they, as well as the consumers, experience it. So it's familiarity in that space. And when we say that we're improving beef flavor performance, then I think we can all relate to that and get excited about it too.
I'm Brian Baxter reporting for NCBA's Cattleman to Cattleman.
If you want to learn more about how Chekhov-funded research is working to improve the beef industry in areas like quality and consistency, just visit the website beefresearch.org.